I'll explain everything.
The WOWI Game Jam. 3 days to make a game with the theme, intentional bugs. Luckily, I'm really good at making games with a lot of bugs in them, so let's do it. Okay, idea. Need some kind of idea. I have been really wanting to make a 3D puzzle game in...
Turning your app into a business can seem like a daunting task.
This room doesn't have any bugs. Then during the puzzle game, where you use glitches and bugs, set up the basics. We'll need a first-person character controller, and we can actually reuse code we've already written. So, done. Except, you can't interact with physics objects, like boxes, which may be an important part of the game. But after some questionable hacky fixes, you can now sort of interact with the cubes. The scene is looking a little bland, so I made an image that could be used as a texture for the environment. And that looks not so good. After a few more attempts, I settled on a not completely awful looking gray grid thing. And next I got to work on the grab item mechanic, which will let you pick up and fling around cubes. This is actually super easy, just a little raycast, a little physics. Okay, come on. Oh. Ah, man. After a little more struggle, I finally got it working sort of as expected. One of the intentional glitches in the game will be box jumping, where if you grab a box and hold it beneath you, you can keep jumping off of it while in the air. And this actually works without adding anything else, so we're off to a pretty good start. Just like I said, I'm great at causing bugs. Next I started working on level design using ProBuilder. I've never made 3D levels, so it started off kind of bad, with me painstakingly placing each individual wall. But eventually I decided to check out some ProBuilder tutorials, which got me on the right track, so now it won't take 3 days to build a single level. The first level will basically just have a fake wall with no colliders that the player needs to find and walk right through. And other than that, so far I just have a bunch of ideas for glitches and mechanics, so I need to stop here and actually come up with some concrete levels. So with what seems like a pretty good list, time to make them a reality. Well, I mean, like, make them in, you know what I mean. Level 2. Here's where you see my creativity and originality really come to life. In this level, you pick up a box, put it on a button, and it opens a door. No glitches here, just an introduction to this original mechanic. In level 3, there's a higher ledge that you can't possibly jump onto, and all you have is a single box. And maybe you figured it out, but you have to use the box jump mechanic that took me so long to create to get up onto the higher platform. Continuing with level design, I started on level 4, where you have 2 doors to get through, but only 1 box. The solution, spoiler alert, is to use the pause bug. The idea is that pausing the game will freeze the scene, but the player will still have the ability to move around. So I started on this mechanic by meticulously handcrafting a pause button, only to realize that you can't move your cursor to click on a button in a first-person game. Devastated by this, I went to sleep. I started Saturday by making a pause menu. Luckily, I figured out that players can just press a key on their keyboard to pause the game. I just need to make it obvious enough that it's an important mechanic. Next, I started on a new level, which will have moving blocks. This took me a while to get to interact with the player correctly. I kept jumping between a regular character controller and a physics-based one, but eventually just settled on the basic controller with another script that moves you if you're on a moving platform. I won't talk too much about the bug you use for this level, because you might still want to play the game if I haven't totally ruined it already. But for those who have played, the mechanic was not one that just worked like I was hoping it would, but I had to actually write code introducing this bug. After creating 2 more levels, I laid them all out and connected them together with hallways, so you'll just have one continuous playthrough experience with no loading screens between levels. And now it's time to ramp up the graphics. We've got some point lights, added in some post-processing, generated a color palette, and found some free
Понимаешь, меня
normal.
прямо я даже вот не знаю, понимает он тебя. Да, вообще просто. Вы думали обо мне, что... Эх, я оказался...
Maps on the asset store. Normal maps just give surfaces additional detail by changing how light reflects off them. I also created some amazing modern art, which will serve as the textures for the cubes, doorways, and moving platforms. Starting to think about sound, I grabbed some audio scripts from one of my other projects. If it's going to be a Portal-style game, we have to have a narrator. So I created a basic scriptable object that will hold a sequence of voice lines. Once the player enters a certain trigger collider, it will set off the sequence, playing one narration line, pausing for a set amount of time, then playing the next in the sequence until all the lines for that particular area have been said. What I did next was put a huge amount of effort into creating a high-quality title screen. jumping around some more, unable to focus on completing one thing, I started adding triggers around the game that can start voice lines and sound effects or mark a level as completed. I also made a system for loading in the levels around the player so you get that seamless transition effect. And back to audio, I started recording the actual voice lines, keeping most of the first takes because we didn't have any time. He's going to find everything that is wrong. Because we didn't have any time. He's going to find everything that is wrong with our systems.
I know you're probably wondering, is it like a Matrix type of thing where you're a real person, but you're in some sort of like virtual reality world? It's not like that.
Okay, last day. Starting off, I commandeered some sound effects and music from this great resource I found called Internet.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. Just look at the cube and click on it to pick it up. And then you can click again to drop it. I would suggest maybe drop.
We've got quite a few small tasks to get done, like fixing bugs, finding a font, making the jump glitch easier, and disabling triggers once they're, well, triggered. The game part of the game is complete. So I revisited the main title scene, which wasn't quite as amazing as I remembered it. The plan is just to add a basic dummy level with a rotating camera. And of course I struggled for a while, trying to figure out why the lighting wasn't working, to finally find that I just needed to have this one little box checked. Ah, man. So I'm pretty much done with the game, but there's a lot of time left. So I'm going to start adding in some extra polish stuff, starting with this cool glitch effect. Okay, the idea is to use this awesome effect to have the game glitch out whenever you exploit one of the bugs, like jumping on a box, clipping through a wall, pausing and moving. You get the idea. And just like that, we have everything working, topped off with a super annoying sound. The very last thing I did was slap on a fade effect for when you enter and leave the main menu scene. I think we're done. Wow, 9 hours before the deadline. I guess I can go do my homework now or something.
Hello. You're probably a little confused, but don't worry, you're not dead, and you're not in trouble. But to be honest, I'm not too impressed so far. I'm just looking at this list of exploits you found in your universe. Infinite money? Nice. What does spatial repositioning mean? Oh, you want to know some things about me? Oh, thanks for asking. I'm a computer programmer, just like you. But I didn't grow up in a universe like yours. Yeah, you already had infinite money, I know that. So I guess this wouldn't really help that much. We could offer you vacations to other universe. That's a perk. That's a perk. With this job, you get to go to other universes. That's cool. You haven't figured out that exploit yet, have you?
Special thanks to Jonas for hosting this game jam. Also thanks to everyone who played, rated, and gave feedback on the game. I had a lot of fun making it, and definitely maybe want to continue working on it or something like it. I don't know.
For just $67, you can make as many videos as you want, and you never need to pick up a camera or use...
No. Well, that's all. See,
Нет, нет, нет. Безнадежно сел. Сразу же блокаж, да? Не, он там узнает эту музыку, потом пишет мне действия. Либо говорит, это, он тебя понял. Это смешно же, да? В Дубае, Бах из Дубая тебе пишет. И Губаев из Дубая. Нет, ладно, шутка.
I recently made this mobile game called Stick With It. Today we're going to take a look at the revenue, some statistics, and how I saved the game from becoming a complete failure.
Наоборот, нет, я понял, у тебя просто, да, да, так нет, наоборот, ладно. Все так могут.
So the game is free, and you can play it without seeing any advertisements.
Wait, what? Then how does it make money?
Good question. There are ads in the game, but they're rewarded video ads. With rewarded videos, a player has the option to watch one and they'll get something in return, like an extra life or in-game currency. Incentivized ads like this tend to give a pretty good player experience when compared to other monetization options. That is, as long as you're not playing this game. Stick With It is a rage platformer thing where you jump around and stick to stuff. It's really difficult and you can easily lose a ton of progress at any point. What I did was add this undo move button that, surprisingly, lets you undo your last move. But you have to watch a 30-second video ad. So I had this completely original idea to share exactly how much my game has made so far. It's been out for almost 2 months. Let's first take a look at the revenue in the initial 3 weeks. In that time, the game somehow got about 150,000 downloads across iOS and Android, and it made around $926. After the initial release, along with the video I posted about the game, it peaked at $100 on June 7th, and then continued to decline, eventually hitting $12 on June 26th. So yeah, you'd think this would just kind of keep going toward zero. But on June 27th, something amazing happened. Not really, I just released the first update. So let's see what I did. This is the Unity game engine, which is what I use to make my games. Usually for updates, developers will fix any bugs that have been found. But luckily, I'm an amazing programmer and my games never have any bugs. Any bugs been found. But luckily, I'm an amazing programmer and my games never have any bugs. Oh. So I got to work fixing stuff like this, and this, and yeah. After an entire day of debugging, everything is working. Sorta. Good enough. Okay, with the game not completely broken anymore, let's tackle the next issue. The game is not fun. No, I'm serious. Even with the changes I made in the last video, it's still way too difficult, and not very many people have actually finished the game. So along with the impossible and hard modes, I decided to add a normal mode. The plan is that you'll be able to aim exactly where the player should jump, instead of having to time a moving arrow. I tried out a few different control types, like a joystick and a weird momentum-based dragging thing, and eventually settled on a swipe joystick combination. But this is still a rage game, and just so it's not too much fun, I added a few more spikes and obstacles to the new normal mode. Now there was a lot of confusion on how the checkpoint system worked, and that was because of my bad game design. So I added a map screen that shows the checkpoints you've reached and lets you switch between game modes. Alright, the #1 suggestion for the game was to add more skins. So, let's make some. Now there are some amazing new characters like Square Guy, Lemon, and Blue Circle. Let me just steal this character select screen real quick, and there we go. Now players have something more incremental to work toward, instead of just sort of trying to get to the end of the map. And finally, I wanted to experiment with in-app purchases. So basically, you'll just be able to pay $1 or $2 to unlock all the skins in the game. Stick With It is actually the 9th mobile game I've published over the last 6 years. A lot of my other games did not get many downloads and made basically no money at all. By the way, I'm not really trying to promote these games. They're actually pretty bad, so please don't play them, especially color combined. You know what? No one has to suffer through that one. All of the initial traffic for Stick With It came from the videos I posted on the game's development. So this time it was a little different, and the game stood more of a chance at competing with the million other games on the App Store. Now let's take a look at how the Stick With It update affected the game's revenue. So here are those first 3 weeks we saw before, and here are the next 3 weeks. So yeah, improving the game with bug fixes, a more accessible game mode, and incremental rewards led to higher player engagement, which ended up having an impact on the game's revenue. On June 27th, the Android update was put out, and about a week later, after getting rejected 3 times, the iOS update was released on July 6th. And here it's hitting about $90 per day. In total, the game's made about $2,400. Most of that is from ads, and about $150 from in-app purchases. This number is actually before Apple and Google take their 30% cut. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone for playing the game, undoing a few moves, and unlocking skins. This is way more than I expected for this game. Yeah, how about some more stats? The ARPDAU is the average revenue per daily active user. So it's basically a measure of how effectively your game is monetized. The median ARPDAU is around 2 cents, and as you can see, mine was around 2 or 3 tenths of a cent. And then after the update went out, it jumped up to about a cent. So yeah, this shows that my monetization strategy wasn't so terrible, just the game itself was. Well, I mean, it still is, but less terrible, I guess. The eCPM is the amount of revenue the developer receives per 1,000 ad impressions. So on average, for every 1,000 ads that are played, I will get $2.68. And there have been over 800,000 total impressions. I'm now realizing how boring these stats are. So, I'm now realizing how $100,000.68. And there have been over 800,000 total impressions. I'm now realizing how boring these stats are. So,
что-то он не очень печальный какой-то. Это странно, страшно.